California, the Golden State, the state where people chase their dreams and, back in the day, follow those dreams into fruition. I used to live in California for decades, not anymore. And I don't think I'm breaking any new ground when I say that California is very much on the decline. For the first time in the last several years, for the first time in its history, they've actually seen a decline in its population, reduced the number of congressional districts. People are voting with their feet, and they're saying no thank you to California and to the liberal Democrat policies that have dominated that state for a couple of decades now. Is it a lost cause, though? Is there a chance that it could be rebuilt? Well, let's talk to the vice chair of Rebuild California, Mike Netter. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here today, Larry. And you're right. It used to be the place where people chased their dreams. Now the politicians are chasing people out of California, aren't they?
Yeah, but you're last man standing there. I imagine you standing there with your arms on your fists on your hips, saying, you know, we're going to hold here. We're going to draw a line in the sand in the beach.
Well, we are, and we talk about this really quite a lot. From starting the recall of Gavin Newsom, the reality is, and we have a lot of Californians that for political, fiscal reasons have to move. But as you hear me say quite often, look, we have one export in California, and if the EPA should find California, it should be polluting the nation with bad politicians. And as you can see, Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, well, I have some good news here. Gavin Newsom hasn't been in California as much lately. The bad news for the rest of the country is he's tromping around the country on some kind of, I guess, nationwide tour trying to say, I'm not running for president, but whether you like it or not, he comes back to California.
Yeah. That's a great point.
So many politicians. Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, what's the story here in terms of the Senate seat? Of course, Dianne Feinstein, we wish her well, but boy, it's not looking good for her to finish out her term, which takes us through the end of next year. And I know that there are many Democrats sort of trying to get that nomination. Do you think that Dianne Feinstein will resign and step down based on this latest health scare that she's undergoing? And if so, what does Gavin Newsom do?
Well, Gavin Newsom, now this is by rumor, is bringing Dianne Feinstein soup every day, so he doesn't have to be put in a position of possibly picking something, because of course he promised to pick a black woman no matter what, which would be Barbara Lee. But the reality is that the Senate race in California, in full disclosure, I'm a Republican working with Eric Early, ericearly.com, who actually was leading in the polls over the Democrats a few weeks ago. Of course, you saw the massive news stories about that. The reality is what we have in California is the first open Senate seat where there is not an incumbent in probably a couple decades. Padilla was kind of anointed by Gavin last time. We don't elect politicians in California. Gavin tends to anoint them. And this time we stand a chance of really having balance in this race. The three people running, Barbara Lee, Katie Porter, and Adam Schiff, are, let's just say I don't agree with their policies, but two of them, especially Schiff, really reek of corruption. And this is the problem that we have, is that these stories get reported, and why we get all excited about, oh my God, Donald Trump's been indicted again, and look at this shiny object. We don't really look at the politicians like Adam Schiff, who's been in Congress since 2000, who has done some, shall we say, shady stuff.
Yeah. Somebody put out a photo of his home in suburban Maryland, right outside Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful home, multi-rooms. I believe it might be Bethesda. It's probably, oh, there we go. Yeah, I mean, that's knowing Montgomery County, Maryland, that home on the left where Adam Schiff, the senator or congressman from California, lives is probably about $1.5 million. But his actual home in his district is that shabby little apartment. I don't think he spends much time in that one-bedroom apartment.
Let's go deeper than that a little bit here, okay? So the mortgage on that home is $543,000. My God, Netter, that's an exact number. How do we know that? Well, Gateway, a person who works with Rebuild California, filed an ethics complaint with Congress, and this is reported by the Gateway Pundit. I'll be retweeting that when this story airs tonight. With the actual documentation attached. And let's walk through this a little bit. Adam Schiff was elected in 2000 in congressional district. In 2003, he bought a home in Bethesda, Maryland with his wife. In 2000, and he marked that as his principal residence. And in 2008, 2011, and 2013, he refinanced this home to get a good mortgage rate. Adam knows a deal when he could see it. That's how he made a fortune, so we say, on the Trump industry, and marked it as his principal residence. Now, I'm not the brightest brick in the pile, but unless Adam has a twin named Adam Schiff, you cannot reside and vote or run for office in 2 states at once.
Listen, Mike, I mean, Ben Cardin, senator from Maryland, announced his retirement. There's an open seat in Maryland. Maybe Adam Schiff could just run for that one. He's more of a Marylander than a Californian.
You know what? Think how much air pollution that would have saved on the flights.
Right, exactly.
I mean, let's go with that narrative. I like that, Larry. Look, here's the reality of it. Okay, he was cited in 2008 by the Ethics in Congress, the Congressional Ethics Committee, who said, look, where do you live? And he said, I'm sorry, I'll return the taxes to Maryland. Now, let's get serious for 1 second here. Here's the reality. At the least, Adam Schiff has violated the ethics of where he resides. At the most, it's actually criminal. And a quick lesson to everybody listening out there, whether you're young or old, you do not lie on mortgage papers. It is a federal crime.
Yeah.
And you do not commit election fraud. That is a state crime up to a federal crime. Adam Schiff claims he resides in California, but claims he resides in Maryland. One or the other is true. And when we're talking about criminal investigations, this really ought to be dug into. This has been filed with the Ethics Committee in Congress. They don't have to reply, but the reality is someone should really open a criminal investigation into this to see if he's even eligible to run for Senator of California.
Mike, let me ask you a question that a lot of our viewers are yelling back at the television right now, and frankly, a lot of people here in the D.C. area would ask as well. From Gavin Newsom to Kamala Harris to Dianne Feinstein to Adam Schiff to Barbara Lee to Nancy Pelosi to Eric Swalwell, the people of California get exactly who they want, they get exactly who they vote for, and they get the policies that they continue to go back and vote for. So your organization is called Rebuild California. Why should we? You've got the California that Democrats want.
No, here's what's happening in California. The biggest party in California is the party of apathy. And this, by the way, is a nationwide problem. People don't vote. Many people have given up and not voting. And when you go downstream in some of these offices, the recall of Gavin Newsom showed that people care. And what the Secretary of State, we have one-sided government in California. And why should you care about California? I say this all the time, because if not, some of these liberals, these rich liberals, will be your neighbors. And if not, some of these really bad politicians are going to be running your state and your country. We are not. Do you really think that people are voting for the conditions in laws where homelessness looks like Syria? Do you really think people are voting for the conditions in San Francisco where there are literally bodies lying on the street and businesses moving out? They're not. They just don't know, because the Democrats do one heck of a job suppressing information. That's why it's so important that we keep things like Rebuild California going. The party, the Republican Party in California, shall we say, is not restaurant quality. But the people of California who stand with Rebuild and stand on the right certainly are. We are going to take California back. We're going to get people like Eric early elected. We're going to do what we have to do, because I'm not the last man standing, but we are getting to be the last battalion.
Well, Mike Netter, you know I agree with you. You know that my heart is in California. My children are in California, and I know that California can be better, because I was there. I was there when Pete Wilson was governor. I was there when George Deukmejian was governor. I was there when California really was the dream that we all hold on to, and it can get back there. So good luck with Rebuild California, and keep us keep us up to date, Mike. Thank you. There's more to come. It's O'Connor Tonight on Salem News Channel.